Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Can everyone hear me? Awesome. So, again, officially, welcome to this information session, which is basically an information session saying what is it going to look like once you officially become, once you officially partner with Open Classroom and have some apprentices on board. I'm going to officially introduce myself because a lot of times I'll run through this webinar and forget to even introduce myself. My name is Carly.simeon. I am the Apprenticeship Success Manager here at Open Classroom. My main role is working with all of the apprentices and ensuring that they successfully complete this program within the 12 months, aka the year. For some reason, people think that is a short time frame. I mean, a long time frame. It is very, very short. Okay. When it comes to the employers, which is you all, my role is to provide guidance and ensure that everyone remains on the same page. Okay. I am the liaison. Think of me as the glue, working on both ends to make sure the circle keeps going. And more importantly, to make sure that we're all aligned. Overall, as I said, is to promote the apprenticeship program within your organization. But as I said, my main goal is to make sure that everyone remains aligned, to make sure expectations are set. And overall, the main goal is to make sure that the apprentices that you bring on board receives that certificate from the Department of Labor, because that is the goal line. That is what we're all chasing. That is what we're ensuring that everyone receives at the end of this. Awesome. So now let's discuss Open Classroom, right? Because that's why we're here. So Open Classroom is on a mission to make education accessible to everyone. So all of you will potentially bring on apprentices who will either have a little bit of skill sets within their past that they're kind of going after, or they may have zero skill sets or zero understanding. Our goal is to provide the education that they would need, aka the training program that they would need. And these are all hands-on project-based education tools that they can use to excel within their path, rather it's cybersecurity, digital marketing, help desk, application developer. We want to make sure that we're providing those tools, those core competencies that will help them propel within their career tracks. Again, whether they're brand new in that track and have no background experience, or they have a little bit of background experience, but want to further their career or further their understanding within that track. We have the resources, we have the training, and we want to provide that to them to help them better your company excel as well too, because that's where they'll be using it for the most part. Open Classroom has been a global learning provider for 10 plus years, for a long time, as I like to say. And we're all over the world. Like I said, we have global footprints everywhere. Our main office, or our main headquarters, I would want to say, is in Paris, but we do have offices in London, San Francisco, LA, New York, which is where I'm calling from, of course, the Chicago area, and we're continuously expanding as well, okay? We are all of our content is built in-house, which is super amazing. And I say I didn't build the content, but we have an amazing learning team who builds the content based on the rubric and compliance and regulations of the Department of Labor. That way we are in direct compliance with the Department of Labor. And as I said, all of the materials are project-based materials to kind of help ensure that everyone is learning the way they should be learning. Sorry, I'm losing a little bit of service. So I'm going to move a little bit. sorry. I'm going right under my Wi-Fi box. Awesome. And sorry, okay, lost my train of thought. I hope everyone can still see me. I have to go directly under my Wi-Fi box.
You're fine. We can see you.
Perfect. So once your apprentice is onboarded, they will be assigned what we call a subject matter expert, aka a mentor. Now, the mentor, as I said, is an expert within that field. Their primary goal is to guide your apprentice in completing all their projects. Okay. Every track has a different number of projects, but it's anywhere between 7 to 9 projects. Their mentor will serve as a tool of guidance, a tool of support. And as I said, they're going to walk them through every project, ensuring that they're actually grasping those core competencies and ensuring that they're understanding the material to actually move on to the next project, and overall completing all the projects they have on board. I want to take a brief pause. Any questions so far?
It doesn't look like it. I think we are
Good.
good.
Perfect. Now, there are several types of apprentices, okay? Now, reskilling apprenticeships is kind of the same thing, but I'm going to discuss the difference. Now, an upskiller is an apprentice who's already employed, and they're coming to Open Classroom and using our training component to either further their skills. So, prime example, we might have someone who's an IT help desk, but they want to kind of get into cybersecurity. So they'll come to us, or their employer will partner with us to help them make that successful transition or boost their skill sets. But overall, the biggest difference is they're already employed and they're using our training program for the next step in their career path. Now, a reskiller can also be employed already. And the biggest difference, I like to say, sometimes reskillers probably don't have any knowledge or any kind of skill sets in that path prior. So think of a digital marketer who decides, hey, I want to do data analyst all of a sudden. That can be the case of them moving to like just a whole new career path as well. Or someone who's recently hired within the company and they kind of want to leverage themselves a little better as well. So sometimes we'll get someone who's newly hired and decide they want to do an apprenticeship. Now, an apprenticeship is someone who kind of, like I said, we match. So someone doing a Google research one day and they're like, oh, Open Classroom does an apprenticeship program. So they probably fill out our platform first and they create a profile with us, which then kind of puts them in our talent pool. And then we kind of go through that matching process. And then let's say they're hired, it will kind of jump back into that reskilling category. But again, just simply means that Open Classroom probably place them and then they're going into the apprenticeship program. With this format, we can get a range of different people, meaning someone who already has experience, someone who has no experience, someone who's just trying it out. We just get a different range. But overall, they're all considered apprenticeship once they are officially matched with an employer. Good to go?
Yeah, I do have one question. When they fill out the information online, how long before someone contacts them, before they get a response?
That is a great question. It all depends on need, right? Sometimes, and digital marketing, which is one of our more booming or more like requested paths, I want to say, once they fill out the profile, if we get an employer who needs a digital marketer, they could be matched anywhere from like maybe 2 weeks, or sometimes we see 2 months. The time frame all depends on the want from the employer and how many people they're willing to take on board, as well as those necessary skills that the employer is looking for. So there's no real official time frame like, oh, 2 months. No, because we can see some that go a little bit over 2 months as well. And actually, we have the best person on board to actually discuss that, because Elizabeth, who kind of does the matching process, can probably give you a better visual in the chat of like how long it would take. But like I said, it can be anywhere from like a few weeks to a few months is what we normally tell everyone.
Okay, now digital marketing is your most popular one right now. Do you have a slide that shows you, right now you have 4. I know you're adding a couple more somewhere down the line, but
Yeah,
you have 5. You have 5. That's what I meant, the additional 4. You have 5 core areas.
So I don't have a actual slide, because again, I say digital marketing, we have the most digital marketing apprentices, but all of our tracks are pretty popular. Again, it's based on demand as well. I can provide information about like kind of who's more sourced. Again, I can work with Elizabeth to provide that information. But again, like I said, we get requests for all tracks, to be honest with you. Digital marketing just happened to be like I have the most apprentices within that track.
Right. So you also have cybersecurity, data analyst, and
House.
Right.
Yes. Awesome. All right. So now let's discuss about the benefits, right? Because I'm sure everyone's wondering, well, why don't I just hire this person and call it a day? There are a lot of benefits to participating in an apprenticeship program. One, free recruitment. Recruitment takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and, of course, money, right? With an Open Classroom, if you decide to match through us, Open Classroom does that recruitment work for you, okay? So Open Classroom will support and provide employers with highly skilled individuals. So we go through that vetting process. We make sure their resumes are on par. We help with the interviews, right? And we make sure we're aligning the employers with the type of apprentices that they are looking for overall. So that's one big benefit, saving that time. And of course, it improves productivity in general. Once the apprentice is actually hired, the main thing that I tell all employers is you get to train this person to do the work exactly how you want the work done. So you're creating a fully qualified individual within that workforce or within your company, which I think is huge. Now, this also saves with turnover rate, right? Because majority of our apprentices remain within that company because, of course, you've been trained to do the work, you've built those relationships, you have that rapport. So it is huge to reduce over that turnover. And then again, you don't have to go through that recruitment process over and over again. So these two, I always say, coincide with one another. Of course, there's a lot of financial gain. It provides opportunities for tax credits for employees and like tuition benefits program. And for every dollar spent on an apprentice, employees get approximately, I believe, like $1.50. So again, there are costs on both ends, but I think the biggest one, as I said before, you get to train a person to do the work exactly how you want it done. Therefore, you're ensuring that you're creating qualified individuals and making sure that your company continues to excel as well. Awesome. Loving it. So, what are the benefits for the apprentice? Well, there's a lot of benefits for the apprentice, as I like to say. But the first one, of course, you earn and you learn. You get a competitive salary as you're learning those core competencies, those core skill sets that you can not only will you use it within your employer, but you can actually use it for freelance work, and you can also use it to further your skill sets. A lot of time, especially within like our cybersecurity track, once they complete the apprenticeship program, it naturally sets them up to take like the CompTIA Security Plus certificate, right? So it sets you up to become further competitive and further successful within your career track. For any apprentice who wants to continue their education, college is very expensive, very, very expensive. So another great thing, Open Classroom partners with certain colleges. And of course, once you're onboarded, we would discuss which colleges those we partner with. And they can earn anywhere from 36 to 38 college credits as they're completing their apprenticeship. So one, you still get your salary. Two, you're saving thousands and thousands of dollars on an education. And then three, the big one, you're earning a certificate from the Department of Labor. This is a nationally recognized certificate that lets other employers or just anyone on the job market knows that this person has successfully completed an apprenticeship, meaning they've garnered the necessary skills, tools, and hands-on experience to perform most entry to junior level tasks within the path that they would like to pursue. Again, that's the gold mine. That's what they're going after. That's the competitive value that sets them above other entry to junior level candidates. Sounds good?
That sounds good. I do have one question going back to the tax credits
Mm-hmm.
for employers so they fully understand the benefits that they can receive.
Mm-hmm.
At least as of right now, that's both federal and possibly state, depending on where they live.
Yes, it would be depending on where they live. So it would differ depending on
I
their.
mean, where their offices are.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And
Okay, is there any word on the WOTC, the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, if it's being extended?
that I am not sure, but I can also check with my funding analyst, and I can even put in an email about the extension of that. But that I don't know off the back, so I don't want to give you any inaccurate information.
Okay, I was just hoping you had more of an inside scoop than me.
But if I find a more inside scoop, I will definitely let you know. Elizabeth, if you have any inside scoop, you can put it in the chat. But I can, like I said, I can meet with our funding analyst and definitely ask and then give you any more information if needed.
Excellent.
Perfect. Now let's discuss program overview. So now you're officially partnered with Open Classroom. You have an apprentice on board, and you get a phenomenal email from me saying, "Hey, we need to meet so I can onboard you." Right? During our onboarding meeting, I like to discuss kind of what the next few months will look like. Okay. Once you become a partner with us, I'll kind of review the platform or the dashboard with you. And again, dashboards will look different based on what path or what track your apprentice is on, of course. But again, I like to walk all employers through it so that way you're just as familiar as I am with the information, and you can also assist your apprentice in being successful, because overall, that's what we like to do, make sure they are very successful in completing their apprenticeship program. You and I will also discuss kind of what your responsibilities will be, right? So with every employer, we have to set a meeting cadence. The purpose of the meeting cadence, one, is to see how things are going. Two, to make sure their apprentice is still employed, right? Because we want to make sure nothing happened in between and we lost an apprentice. But three, and overall, is to make sure that we remain aligned on all expectations and make sure that things are running smoothly. I like to check in as well with all of my employers just to make sure that I can provide the support or kind of help with guidance, right? Sometimes you might want to know, hey, how do I support my apprentice and ensure that they're moving along? I want to be able to provide that resource overall. Then we go over like the program reviews, right? What should progression and completion rates look like? Every apprentice, once they're officially accepted into the program, once they're onboarded, which they're onboarded by me, they receive a study schedule. The study schedule kind of lays out what the next 12 months will look like. I also provide employees with that study schedule so that way everyone understands when projects should start and when projects should end. The reason for that is, again, a lot of times, especially if an apprentice is an upskiller, we understand that there are big projects that happen at work. So we want to make sure Open Classroom can effortlessly fit into that schedule without making an apprentice feel overwhelmed that, oh my gosh, I have to do, I have to worry about everything at one time. So I like to discuss the study schedule with all employers and see if there's any big coming projects coming up within just their regular job and see how we can help the apprentice either move a little quicker with their projects or see where they can slow down, but overall make sure they stay on track, right? We don't want them to fall off track because again, this is a program for a year, 12 months. So we want to make sure we're always meeting that timeline. Again, I like to help employees understand the apprentice's point of view as well, so that again, it's easier to empathize and understand what they're going through. Intervention. I like to triage. I don't even call this intervention. I like to triage. So if an issue should arise before anything, I like to be proactive about it. Prime example, apprentices, it is mandatory that they meet with mentors on a weekly basis. It's not a maybe, it's not a maybe today, maybe next week. It is mandatory that they meet on a weekly basis. So if a apprentice is missing weekly meetings, I step in right away and triage to see why they're missing those meetings and make sure those meetings are put back on track. The best way to be successful when it comes to that is to ensure that your apprentice sets a meeting cadence, meaning every Friday at 2 o'clock, I'm going to meet with my mentor rather than I'll play it by ear. Because once you play it by ear, you start to miss those sessions, right? So those are some of the methods that we put into place to ensure that the apprentice is not falling behind and to make sure progression is moving forward on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, as I like to say, without impacting their daily work life. This is all about work-life balance, and we want to make sure we do not interrupt that in any way. Any questions?
No, I think I'm going to hold the rest of my questions until the end.
Perfect, perfect. Feel free to ask in real time as well, too. So what does it actually look like to do an apprenticeship program, okay? As I said before, every apprentice will have to complete 7 to 9 projects. Cybersecurity is our only track with 9 projects. The other 4 has 7 projects, okay? Cybersecurity, it would be 9. As they are completing the project, as I said, the way they complete projects is by meeting with their mentor for a one-on-one session weekly. Their mentors will help them work through milestones, overall work through the projects. And at the end of every project, they will have to host something called an assessment. Think of it like school. You work all semester learning this material, and then you have the big final project, right? It is the same method here. You would have an assessment, but the difference is you just had that one-on-one, someone working with you one-on-one to help you get through that. And then you would book your assessment, and then a completely different person known as an assessor would host your assessment where you present your work, present the material, and they would actually grade if you've mastered those core competencies or not. This is to prevent any bias, of course. If we did it with a mentor, the mentor might say, oh, I know what you mean. I'll give you that point, or I'll give you that credit. This person is here to solely say, yep, you've mastered those core competencies. We can now move you on to the next project, okay? Now, as an employee, you're thinking, great, my apprentice has a lot of work to do and they got it all thought out, and that's amazing. What do you expect from me? That's a great question. On the other end, as the workplace advisor, you will be completing something called the work process schedule. Again, I'm using the one for cybersecurity as I was just onboarding someone for cybersecurity, but every track has its own work process schedule, and you would receive one with your apprentice's name on it. This is why it's very important for you to create your platform so that you can follow your apprentice as they're completing the work. So if your apprentice is on project 2 and they're solely completing these core competencies for project 2, your role as the workplace advisor would be to assess those skills. How are they using these core competencies in the workforce, right? And it is a simple drop-down box. It's very easy. It's a simple drop-down box. You would click any one of these. You will put the date that you actually assess that core competency. And then if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything you just want to add extra, you would just simply put it into this box right here to let us know any comments that you may have. On the side, we've even put off some suggestions as well, just in case you're a little confused of, oh, what does this competency mean? How will I even properly assess it? You can use some of our suggestions to get a better idea. Now, again, it may look different for your company. If you use a Mac computer, you might not have some of these core competencies versus Windows or anything of the sort. But this is your biggest responsibility, as I tell all workplace advisors, because if we do not have this sheet, prime example, and your apprentice has completed all the projects, we don't have anything to submit to the Department of Labor. We need both components. We need this plus this for your apprentice to officially receive this Department of Labor certification. Good to go?
Good to go.
And seems like a question was coming.
Well, actually, I was going to hold this, but since we're in the middle of it,
Yeah.
what is the situation if an apprentice is doing really well in their job on their job skills, but not doing so great with completing the coursework?
Yeah, that's where I step in, right? Because it has to be a hand-in-hand process, right? If they're doing great and they're working and this is a new hired apprentice, again, we have that discussion, right? Because again, we match them. So we want to let them know that this is a match through open classroom. And part of the stipulation is that you complete your projects because the Department of Labor is recognizing this as an apprenticeship program. This is where the many forms of interventions do come into place. And let's say, still, I intervene, I meet with them, we set an action plan, and then they fall off the wayside again. This is where myself and the workplace advisor, aka the employer, would meet, right? Because then we need to discuss a plan of action for that employee. This is where us being aligned helps that apprentice succeed. So then you and I would meet, we would discuss the best action plan, and it may be giving the apprentice an extra 30 minutes. Let them keep their lunch break, please. But giving them like extra 30 minutes or an hour to kind of do the open classroom work. Because again, it will not work, or they will not receive the Department of Labor certification if both components are not happening simultaneously. So if they're doing great at work, but they're not completing an open classroom component, they don't receive the certificate from the Department of Labor. And again, we have to report all of our findings to the Department of Labor as well.
Okay. Now, are all of the apprenticeships necessarily full-time employment?
No, we do. I have a few part-times. I have a few apprentices who are part-time. And some of them are using the apprenticeship program to get a full-time position. So again, it can work in many of ways.
Okay.
Good questions. I love those questions. So again, this is just kind of a visual of what the skill validation process looks like. Project 1 is the bonus project. Okay, so there's nothing to assess. It's us kind of building that rapport, helping them understand their platform, walking through everything. So nothing real to actually happen in that sense. But again, when it comes to project 2, as I said, they would go through milestones first before actually hosting the project with the assessor. Their mentor would be reviewing their deliverables, of course, to make sure it is up to par for the assessor. They present the work, they complete it, they move on to the next project. You in green right here, this is what you're reviewing. So you're like, oh, Carly finished project 2. Let me meet with her one-on-one and let's assess those skills in real time. You do have a year to complete the work process schedule form. However, 99% of the time, when someone waits for that year, they just forget oh, I don't know when you use the skill, and then they just start putting anything and everything on there, right? So I would say it's easier to do it as they're completing the projects as well, because it will be fresh in your mind. You can just embed it into the one-on-ones that you probably already have with your apprentice. That way it doesn't feel like you're adding an extra meeting to the calendar. My goal is to fit in, not to make a new workload for anyone. Awesome. Great. And then what does the support look like for Open Classroom? So Open Classroom provides, I like to call it the 360 approach. The minute your apprentice is onboarded, by me, of course, they're automatically assigned a mentor. So literally once we get the clearance, they'll receive an email of this is your mentor alongside with my email saying for them to book a session with me so that I can pre-introduce them to the platform, kind of set those expectations ahead of time, get to know them as well, right? Because someone who's a caretaker, someone who works a full-time job, some people who work 3 jobs may not have the same availability as just a fresh out college student. This is their first role, right? So again, it's not a one size fits all approach. It is really getting to know the person overall and seeing how we can fit into that schedule and see what resources we can provide to ensure they are successful. Because like I said, every last one of my apprentices, they're all different and they all need different levels of support. And I'm sure the new ones will all need a catered sense of support as well. But again, before they start, they're provided with that mentor. As I said, they're the professionals in the field. They're the one who's going to guide them through all of the learning content, ensure that they're understanding the material, and make sure they're grasping those concepts. And then they have a dedicated student success team. That's moi, who's there to provide any sense of general support. So I am so transparent in the beginning. I say, if you have any questions on Python, SQL, or anything else, I can't help you. I can provide you resources from the library, but I can't help because I don't know those languages. That's a mentor question. But if you get stuck, so a link is not working or you can't access your platform. And this is also for employers to like, hey, Carly, my platform is not letting me in, or my password is not working, or whatever circumstances may be happening. You can contact me for general help and I will be there to support you. Also, real life doesn't stop because you're doing an open classroom apprenticeship program. I say real life happens faster for some odd reason. So if real life is happening, I am there to provide support beyond open classrooms as well, and resources to ensure that your personal life still remains intact as you're completing this amazing milestone. So I always tell everyone, think of me as beyond open classrooms, because again, I want to make sure I'm providing the whole person, not just an apprentice. So I always say I think about the person, not the apprentice. You also have access to your customer support team. So the very few times that I take vacation, which is not often, unless I'm out of office, you do not have to wait 2 weeks to contact me. No, you can always contact our customer support, who can answer any questions. Again, resetting passwords, making sure any troubleshooting issues you may have, submitting tickets for anything that may be happening. Elizabeth, who was just on, is also part of that. So anything, if you're like, hey, I need to switch my mentor ASAP because we're just not getting along. We had a huge argument and I just happened to be out. Again, someone is there to always provide you support, right? Again, that's the key here. We want to ensure that you feel support throughout this entire journey as a person, not just as an apprentice and not just as an employer, but as a person in total. Any questions?
Go ahead. I'm going to have to ask at the end. Oh, okay. You know what? Since this is one that, as you talked about being the recruiter and doing the screening and everything, for employers, this is not like an employment agency, right?
Nope.
This is free, correct?
Yes, this is free. So this is not a placement agency, which is like the biggest misconception. We're not a placement agency. So as I said before, our apprentices, pre-apprentices, or anybody who wants to do an apprenticeship program, they set up a profile. I would say think of it similar to LinkedIn, but not a LinkedIn because it's not like, social networking, but there's like a profile where you're able to review resumes, right? You're able to review skill sets to see if they align. Open Classroom can go through the matching process. So if you're like, hey, I love Carly.simeon and I would love to hire her, there's a link in a form you can fill out. Of course, it'll more likely be to Elizabeth or customer success team. And then, of course, we'll reach out to that apprentice, let them know, hey, this employer is interested in having you on board. And then we kind of set up that interview process. Of course, we want to make sure resume-wise, they're ready, interview-wise, they're ready to send them out to interview to ensure the best possible outcome.
Okay. Are there any background checks done prior to them starting?
Yes. Yes, of course. That would have to be yes.
Okay.
Amazing questions. So, what's the next step, right? So, we walk through this whole amazing journey. So, what's the next steps? Of course, once you officially become an employee and I onboard you, we will set that meeting cadence, which is super important. As I said, this is a way for us to check in to make sure everything is still running smoothly. Meeting cadence are anywhere from 4 weeks to 6 weeks. You'll decide if every 4 weeks works best for you or if every 6 weeks would work best for you. I will send out the link for you to create your open classroom platform profile. This is a very important profile to complete. As I said, this is the way I will attach you to your apprentices platform profile. This is a way to ensure that you can follow their journey to make sure that they are on track as well. I put the link in the chat. This is a way for us all to remain aligned, okay? I will also send you a copy of that apprentice's work process schedule agreement. So we'll have the apprentice name and the path that they are on, okay? I will also send out other information like, the syllabus for that course or that path. That way you can follow along as well. And from there, we just set our next meeting and then we get the ball rolling in motion. Now, for every employer, it's normally you and I meeting, but there are 2 meetings out of the year that I like to schedule with you, myself, and the apprentice. It is a nice session. I normally schedule the first one a month after everyone has onboarded, because then you have a month of like just seeing how the program is ran, how everything is going. The purpose is having the meeting of all of us in one room is so that we all can just have an open and free discussion and set those expectations in real time, rather than me meeting with you one week and then meeting with the apprentice like maybe 2 to 3 weeks later. We're all in the same room and we all can discuss what supports we need to put in place, if any is needed, but what supports need to be put in place, what you would like to see as an employee, like, hey, I would like to see this person do a little more of this, then a little more of that. And of course, the apprentice is able to vocalize if it's doable. It's a way for us to just all be on the same page and kind of realign, of course. And then, yeah, that kind of summarizes how we onboard our employers and kind of how we support our employers as well.
Awesome.
Awesome. Any questions?
No, I think, is this the end? Or
This is
do you?
the end. This is the end for the employers.
Okay, awesome. So I think you covered all of my questions. We probably should have stated that this is free to employers up front. But sorry that I didn't ask that one there. And I think we are all good. Thank you. So I see you put your information in the chat, and I will be sure to include it in the description
Yes,
when the video is posted. Just one thing, I did think of something else.
of course. Of course.
This has the flexibility in our digitally connected world that if someone owns a business in Delaware, their ideal candidate might actually be in Iowa. And as long as they can do the job can be performed remotely.
They can do this because all of our training, so the open classroom component is 100% remote, 100% virtual. So again, if they're okay with that employee being also virtual and remote and they can complete all their tasks seamlessly, absolutely, this can be
Okay.
an amazing partnership.
Right. Yeah. So you can have in-house or you can have
Yep.
remote.
Yep.
Okay.
Or you can have hybrid. We have some apprentices who are also hybrid as well. Again, the employer will kind of tell us their needs, and then that's kind of how we filter through our candidates.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very
Of
much, Carly.
course.
That was very informative.
Of
And yeah,
course.
this is an excellent, particularly in these tumultuous times, this is
Yes,
an
yes,
excellent opportunity
very much so.
for employers to offload some of the back end work by having open classrooms do that pre-screening for
Yeah,
them, and then
exactly.
really get motivated employees because they're working towards that certification.
Exactly.
So they're learning, they're earning, and it's a win-win for everyone.
Exactly. And that's what I love to say, because the person is extremely motivated, right? It's that hunger to learn, that hunger to work. So you're getting some of the best candidates possible.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you very much. You
You're
have a
welcome.
great day.
You
And
too.
I will just, as I said, I will put the links in the description to the video, so those who view it afterwards
Yep.
can check it. And thank you very much, and have a great day.
You too. You have a good one. It's been a pleasure, everyone, and I hope to see some more people on board. So I'm excited. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too. Bye bye.